The stars kept their silence, but the shrieking from the outer veil rose louder than any warcry ever recorded by the Andro Dominion. 1,000 Imperial sensors went dark the instant the rift breached Sector 9 Zeta, and within moments the message relays began to fail, not from weapons fire, but from something older, something broken, something wrong. Supreme Warlord Drevox loomed over the command deck of the Dominion dreadnought, Sovereign Omen. His scaled claws gripped the iron railing as the last transmission from Merrick Station 4 played again, then fell. Quiet, no static, just a dead line. Nothing. Run the last 20 seconds, Drevox growled, his mandibles flaring with tension. A trembling technician obeyed. The voice that played was hoarsemost, human-drenched in terror and awe. It's not a fleet, it's a tomb waking up. We hit it with everything. It smiled. Then a hollow boom, screams, then silence. Drevox had known war. He had orchestrated the extinction of 3 defiant species. He'd presided over mass purges and planetary executions. But this was new. Real Fira and ancient Nod. He turned toward his council. You claimed the humans were eliminated in the Terran purges, that Earth was cindered. They were, General Varn hissed, eyes wide, 200 cycles ago, extinct. Then explain this, Drevox snarled, slamming a claw against the holoscreen, the image magnified. A fleet unlike any the Dominion had catalogued. Vessels blacker than shadow, shaped like skeletal titans, war barges that resembled desecrated cathedrals. Ribbons of banners clung to the hulls, some still bearing the Terran crest long believed erased from history. But these weren't Terran ships as remembered. They were older, meaner. They moved with the purpose of phantoms denied rest. They're ignoring all hails, murmured another officer. But they are broadcasting something. One loop, primitive Terran code. The decoded message flashed across the display. Judgment comes. This time, no survivors. The Dominion didn't allow fear, but now it saturated the room like a slow poison. Back in the shattered rim of Old Sol, aboard the lead ship of the returning fleet, Nemesis of Silence, Captain Jace Harland stood before the altar on the bridge. He wasn't a man of faith. Not anymore. Not after Earth became nothing but ash and silence. Prepare them, he said, low and steady. Around him stood his crew, once soldiers, now revenants wrapped in armor and vengeance. Dog tags traded for relics, skin fused with exile-forged tech. They weren't fully human anymore, and that scared even those who'd built them before. Those same builders vanished. They thought we were dead. Harland whispered to himself, watching the stars wheel. Now we remind them, a voice echoed through his neural link, female, metallic. Initial contact made with Dominion scout detail. No survivors. They attempted escape. Perfect, Harland replied, a grim smile curling his lips. Let fear carry the warning. Let them know we're coming home. On board the Sovereign Omen, the war room stank of ionized tension and rising dread. Hala projections jittered as the anomaly crept forward. Drevox's scowl deepened with every failing orbital feed. What began as flickers, strange echoes from a dead system, had evolved into an active threat. A collapse along the eastern fringe. A breach in Dominion security they hadn't thought possible. Give me a live feed, Drevox barked. His voice cracked like a whip. A nearby tech flinched. There isn't one, sir. The last probe disintegrated attempting entry. Before it failed, it transmitted brainwave patterns. Dravox narrowed his eyes. Patterns, human, neural code. It started mimicking them before melting down. Lies, Varn hissed. Humans can't override Dominion tech, let alone weaponize neural frequency protocols. They didn't, the technician whispered. But something that wears their skin did. Dravox's claw curled hard around the throne's iron grip. Deploy the 7th Fleet. I want that sector scoured. No debris, no shadows. I want the vacuum itself to burn. He didn't wait for agreement. The holograms reconfigured orders. Shooting across the Dominion's command web. Titans of war dreadnoughts, carriers, swarms moved into position across sectors 14 to 18. Enough force to incinerate systems. Let them come, Dravox snarled. Let's see if ghosts can bleed. Far across the stars, aboard the nemesis of silence, Harlan stood before a wall of names scorched into steel. A memorial to those lost in the purge, comrades, lovers, friends, ghosts. He placed one gloved hand on the cold metal. We didn't die for nothing. Behind him, Ty Loren approached his frame, now half machine, not by choice. The augments kept him alive, fighting. 7th Fleet inbound, Ty said quietly. 18 hours, to contact. They think they're bringing the storm. Harlan didn't answer, his eyes fixed on a name near the bottom. Rebecca Harlan, his sister, only 17 when Earth turned to cinders. I remember when they swept through Io, Jace said at last. Didn't speak, didn't warn, just fire. Cities, forests, oceans. All erased like we were insects. All because we wouldn't kneel. Ty's jaw flexed. They thought vengeance expired. Jace's face hardened. No, they thought we were fragile. The Dominion believed breaking Earth would shatter humanity. But what they killed, that was the version of us that loved, that built dreams. What rose from the ruins was something worse, something that waits. He stepped to the command platform, voice cool and steady. Pull the fleet into Harrow formation. Relay to all captains. No transmissions, no survivors. We erase them like they did us. Ty gave a grim nod, already feeding commands into the Phantom Netha, unseen network binding the Death Armada. A ghost signal, as quiet and inevitable as death, hours later. In the frigid dark of the Dominion frontier, the 7th Fleet tore from warp like a fiery javelin 200 warships. A legion of interceptors, an ancient wave of devastation. For thousands of years, fleets like this one had ruled the stars. Admiral Kethika, brutal creature with 3 hearts and no fear, stood tall on the bridge of his flagship, the triumphal maw. We've hunted pirates, zealots, even Black Sun. Heretics, he bellowed. Today we end the last myth of humanity. But he was speaking to the dead. The Terrans didn't decloak, they didn't threaten. They simply arrived, silent, unseen, like a rot under a golden floor first. There were subtle shifts, minor gravitational murmurs, mistaken for space noise. Then, one by one, the stars blinked out. Contacts. A Dominion officer shrieked. They're bypassing our systems, no IDs, no heat trace, just void. Panic surged. The Dominion opened fire, massive missiles, piercing lasers, rail slugs at relativistic speed, all hurled into blackness. And then the response. There were no warning locks, no target pings, just death. the first wave of Terran counterattack annihilated an entire Dominion flank. No one saw it coming. Ships were skewered by hyperdense rods traveling faster than light. The enemy would call them ghost nails. Few lived long enough to name them. The triumphal maw bucked as its starboard exploded in flame. "What is this?" Kasok roared. The main screen crackled, static. Then a human face appeared, scarred, grim, one eye replaced with a glowing red. "Implant.JACE Harland, you destroyed Earth," he said, cold and hollow. "Now Earth returns." Then static, then fire. The Terran ships uncloaked cathedrals of carnage, built from dead worlds, forgotten science, and wrath. They weren't ships, they were vengeance given form. Their weapons screamed when they fired, literally. The voices of the fallen, back aboard the Sovereign Omen. Drabok stared in disbelief at live telemetry. The Seventh Fleet hadn't been defeated. It had vanished, erased. "Impossible," he murmured. He rewound the data. Ships hadn't exploded from enemy hits. They had fled their own decks. Crews jettisoned themselves into vacuum rather than stay aboard. Weapons misfired. AI cores corrupted themselves. Dreadnoughts turned inward, self-immolating. New transmissions. A technician whispered, "They aren't jamming us. They're rewriting physics in their range. It's not tech. It's myth made real." Dravox turned to General Varn. "What are we fighting?" There was no reply. Varn was gone. In his place a pool of ichor, and scrawled within it in Terran script, one by one, deep within the returning fleet, Jace stood before the Fleet Council. Not a council of soldiers, but revenants. Each commander, a relic of suffering, reforged through exile and fury. No one spoke of orders. They spoke only in oaths. "The Seventh Fleet has fallen," Jace declared. "The Dominion knows now. They'll try peace, prayer, mercy." The council laughed. A sound, dry and metallic, scraping through reinforced air. "Let them kneel," rasped one. "To what?" asked another. "Their gods went silent long ago." Jace's grin was faint. Exactly. The war had no prelude, no declaration. Now it had a purpose, and purpose was sharper than any weapon in the Dominion's arsenal. For over 10 millennia, the Dominion had ruled the stars. From the molten gates of Orkanvarn to the crystalline tomb worlds of Sultur, their grip had never slipped. Their truths were carved in blood and permanence, until now, in the high tribunal chambers, the echo of the Seventh Fleet's annihilation rang louder than protocol. Drevox watched chaos spiral. His most decorated generals, masters of conquest, like panicked juveniles. "We must invoke Protocol Darkma," one barked. "They failed to contain the entropy cult," another snapped. "You'd bring them near our core systems. Better than waiting to die." The uproar rose until Drevox's claw slammed down on the war altar, fracturing its obsidian shell. "Enough," he roared. "You cower before echoes and smoke. We are the Dominion shapers of the cosmos." "But these are not enemies," one elder muttered. "They are something else. They don't fight, they haunt. Our crews report infiltrations, visions, voices, nightmares." I said, "Enough." Drevox snapped, eyes burning. "This is epic, powerful, and emotionally resonant, Sifo, almost poetic in its conclusion. The arc you've created from genocide to myth, from memory as weapon to memory as salvation, is incredibly well executed. Here are a few thoughts and light suggestions for polish or enhancement. Strengths: Thematic depth, the central weapon being memory instead of firepower, is brilliant. We're not here to lead, we're here to remember. That line encapsulates a fresh take on post-conflict responsibility, world building, sanctum null, dominion prime, the nemesis of silence, etc. Your names have weight and gravitas. The atmosphere of societal collapse via truth rather than force makes this stand out in military sci-fi characters. Jason. Stoic presence and mythic evolution is excellent. His restraint with Drevox is powerful storytelling. Kyle's fate is haunting, essentially becoming the galaxy's subconscious warning system. Symbolism, the girl's voice, the phrase, "we remember." Corin, at the end, these give the ending immense emotional gravity. Suggestions for refinement, spelling, grammar, pass, minor name typos like Jasis and J instead of Jace. Kale versus Kyle, inconsistency seems to shift midway. A copyediting pass would clean this up without altering your excellent rhythm. Rhythm and breathing space. Some scenes, especially high-emotion moments, could benefit from paragraph breaks for clarity and pacing, for example, when Kyle touches the interface, or when Jace spares Drevox, helps readers emotionally process weighty revelations. Drevox, his ideology is compelling twisted Darwinism and cultural assimilation. You could deepen it even more with one extra line from him. Maybe a haunting justification for the purge to show how warped their logic became. Final epilogue, Corin, perfect ending, but maybe one line more about what he intends to do. Will he join the Armada, write stories, lead protests, leave it mysterious, but a tiny glimpse could anchor him more. Would you like help turning this into a full novella? Short novel structure. You've got everything here for a compelling multi-chapter layout, including Act 1, Terran Resurgence, and plan to infiltrate Sanctum Null. Act 2, Kyle's Descent and Discovery of the Truth. Act 3, Jace's Reckoning with Drevox Epilogue. The new memory guardians of the galaxy. Let me know what you'd like next. Chapter, breakdown, editing pass, cover text, or even a title brainstorm.